Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I am super excited because we're going to do something incredibly practical and honestly just fascinating. We're literally opening up a master lesson planner and completely deconstructing a 10-minute micro-teaching script by educator Dalia Mendoza Herrera. What we're really looking at here is how to consciously design and implement a micro-teaching session that demonstrates the use of effective strategies, approaches, and techniques for teaching and developing the skills of ESL learners. You know all that heavy theoretical content you cover in your education courses? Well, we're going to see what it actually looks like in action, integrating those theories right into the classroom. Let's get to it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think of this as the table of contents for our study notebook. We're looking at the anatomy of the lesson, designing the English lesson, activating prior knowledge, modeling and guided practice, promoting communicative interaction, and finally, assessment and educational foundations.
Starting off with Section 1, designing the English lesson, specifically setting the stage for our Pre-A1 beginners.
To really appreciate the genius of this lesson, we've got to look at the timeline. Picture this. It's a class designed for Pre-A1 beginners, right in their first 2 weeks of high school semester. The whole goal? Just a simple self-introduction. But notice how meticulously this 10-minute micro-teaching session is blocked out. We've got just 1 minute on the introduction, bam, right into a 1-minute warm-up, and then carefully stepping through modeling, guided practice, interaction, and closure. Literally every single second is accounted for. It ensures the students progress naturally without missing a beat, even under these really strict constraints.
Now, what's really interesting here is the invisible shield protecting these beginner students from getting completely overwhelmed. That shield, it's John Sweller's cognitive load theory. I mean, have you ever sat in a class where the teacher just threw way too much at you all at once and your brain just kind of shut down? Yeah, that's cognitive saturation. To prevent that, Dalia's lesson uses super short instructions, highly controlled vocabulary, and a very gradual progression. It is absolutely the theoretical backbone of pacing. All right, turning the page to Section 2, activating prior knowledge at the 1-minute mark. I want you to think back to your own early language classes. Repeating basic greetings seems so incredibly simple on the surface, right? But let's use our X-ray vision here. Look at the actual teacher's script. Repeat after me. Hello. Good morning. Student. Notebook. It looks almost overly simple, but check out Jeremy Harmer's powerful pedagogical justification for this. Harmer argues that language learning is most effective when students interact with contextualized vocabulary in meaningful classroom situations. By using words like student and notebook, the teacher isn't just drilling random vocab, she's giving them tools they can use in that very room, right in that very moment. Moving right along to Section 3, modeling and guided practice. We are now at the 2-minute mark. So as we transition to modeling, the teacher shifts gears. We go from single, isolated vocabulary words to full, yet strictly controlled sentences. The training wheels are for sure still on, but hey, the bike is moving forward. Why do it this way? Enter Stephen Krashen's famous theory of comprehensible input. Krashen basically says that students acquire language best when they receive input they can understand, but that is just slightly above their current level of competence. You know, the I+1 concept. This is the exact engine driving the teacher's carefully paced demonstration. So what does comprehensible input actually sound like in a real classroom? Well, it sounds exactly like this. The teacher says, slowly and clearly, "Hello, my name is Anna. I am 16 years old. I am from Mexico. I am a student. I like English." See? The sentences are intentionally short, the structures are repetitive, and this is perfectly designed so the students can observe and process meaningful language before they're ever actually asked to produce it themselves. Now, as we hit the 3.5-minute mark, another absolute giant of educational theory takes center stage, Lev Vygotsky. Vygotsky gave us the concept of scaffolding and the zone of proximal development. He argued that learning happens through social interaction and guided assistance way before a student can do something independently. I mean, you don't just ask a complete beginner to introduce themselves from scratch, right? You build a scaffold for them to climb. Let's break down how this builds step by step in the classroom. Step 1, the teacher provides the complete sentence frames, like, "My name is blank," or "I am blank years old." Step 2, the students fill in those blanks with their own personal info. And step 3, the teacher conducts a simulated interaction for immediate positive reinforcement. "What is your name?" "My name is Carlos." "Excellent." This step-by-step scaffolding beautifully illustrates Vygotsky's zone of proximal development in action. The teacher is expertly bridging that gap between what the student can do alone and what they can do with just a little bit of help. All right, we're halfway through.
Section 4, promoting communicative interaction at the 5-minute mark. Let's flip our notebook to the most energetic phase of the lesson. This is where the room gets a little louder, right? Student pair work. They're taking the reins. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide between old-school grammar drills and modern teaching. Look at the classroom activity on one side. Students working in pairs, simply asking, "What is your name?" But look at the methodology behind it. Richards and Rogers' Communicative Language Teaching, or CLT. This approach prioritizes authentic, meaningful interaction over isolated grammar practice, so a simple peer-to-peer chat is actually a calculated deployment of CLT. It proves language is a tool for communication, not just some subject to memorize.
Imagine the dynamic here. Student A turns to student B. "What is your name?" Student B replies, "My name is Sophia." Student A follows up, "How old are you?" And Sophia says, "I am 16 years old." Guys, it's a massive win. They aren't just reciting, they're genuinely conversing. They're actively using the target language to socialize, which builds oral participation and for sure builds their confidence.
Then, at 6.5 minutes, we move to a mini presentation phase where students present their short personal introductions to the class. And immediately after a student speaks, the teacher jumps in with, "Excellent job, very good pronunciation." Now, according to theorist H. Douglas Brown, this isn't just a teacher being nice. This immediate praise and active participation, they are direct, crucial strategies to reduce beginner anxiety. And as we know, anxiety is literally one of the biggest barriers to language production. Finally, we reach Section 5, Assessment and Educational Foundations, the final minutes of our lesson planner. So the activities are done, but how do we actually measure success before the bell rings without triggering that test anxiety we just worked so hard to reduce? Well, at the 7.5-minute mark, the teacher uses this highly visual, traffic light formative assessment. Green means excellent participation. Yellow means good effort. Red means, okay, we need to practice pronunciation and the verb to be a little bit more. It's instant, it's incredibly low stress, and it gives the students clear, actionable feedback right at the end. Plus, it perfectly aligns with that cognitive load theory we talked about earlier by keeping the feedback simple and direct. Looking at this master reference list, it absolutely proves that a simple hello in a classroom is never just a hello. This single 10-minute micro-teaching session is a total masterclass. It's constructed upon the foundational pillars of these educational giants, from Krashen's input to Brown's anxiety reduction, and all align beautifully with the Mexican upper secondary educational framework. It's deeply integrated pedagogical theory transformed into a practical, empowering session.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've used our X-ray vision today to uncover the theoretical blueprint behind a seemingly simple 10-minute English lesson. So, knowing the hidden theories powering every single classroom interaction, how will you consciously design the anatomy of your next lesson? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep structuring those amazing ideas, and I'll catch you next time.